up, guys? I'm E-House from Gun Gamers.
I'm Amy.
And welcome to another episode of SpeedSim. Today we're going to be talking about a subject that is so much fun for everybody, because we're not sure if people realize the extent to which it really has an influence. And we've talked about this subject before, but we want to really hammer it home. Insurance.
Ooh, that big I word.
Yeah, the evil insurance man. And,
Kyle, we're looking at
Kyle. So we're talking about to what extent Kyle, aka insurance, has an extent on the rules of your local field, because you might hear a lot of rules that you think are dumb or that you think don't make any sense. Odds are good they're because the insurance man demanded it.
Yeah. First of which is FPS. You don't understand that the insurance has a lot to say when it comes to FPS. Yep. Indoor, it's 350, and that's it. You can't go higher or lower. I've seen fields that do higher FPS. I know Airsoft is 400 indoor, which is kind of too high for my liking and for the rest of people, but I guess if that's how it works for them, that's great. But 350 is generally what the insurance man tells you to limit yourself at. Now, outdoor fields is there's kind of a gray area, because they allow you up to 500 FPS, but then they have like certain constituency where you can only have 400. But there's such a gray area in between that. So depending on the outdoor field, depending on the insurance, you'll either get a cool 500 FPS field or kind of a 400 mid-range like you would be used to.
Yeah. And the other thing with insurance is it's not the same from place to place. Nope. And it's not the same from event to event. Nope. Like there's a reason that, say, Milsim West can get away with not requiring, full face protection and letting people play with shooting glasses, whereas your local field is going to require full face protection and full seal goggles.
Or sometimes full face mask.
Yeah, it's because your local insurance agency is your local field is probably having their insurance written by a local agency, and that local agency is probably giving that field a more competitive rate in exchange for that.
Yep.
Because there are some fields that I personally know of who did look at switching insurance to try to get out of like face protection requirements, but it jacks their rate up so much that it's just not affordable.
Yeah.
And whereas, say an event like Milsim West, where you're paying $150, $200 to go, you got 500 people paying $150 to attend. They can afford a little more expensive insurance, and they're going to get the more expensive insurance because they've got pyro, they've got vehicles, they got all kinds of stuff in play. So that comes with the package. Your local field doesn't have that luxury.
Yeah, and most of the time, especially when it comes down to pyro, your insurance says, no, can't have pyro. And if you go with a more expensive insurance, they'll probably allow it, and there won't be
depending on your state laws, of course.
Exactly. It kind of comes down to the actual state. But for the most part, there's nothing that says anything about pyro, so it kind of comes down to your state.
Yeah. And then, you get into things like what the protective equipment requirements are, because we touched on that. But people say, I hate that fields require, full ear protection. Well, there's a reason for that, and it's not your field.
No.
It's your insurance.
Yep. The insurance dictates a lot when it comes down to eye protection. For my field personally, it's full face protection. That can be via goggles, lower face mask, and ear pro, or just a full face mask. I always kind of tell people to go with the full face mask. That way you don't have a lot of stuff to assemble before you get out and play. But it's up to the individual and how they want to go about it. If they want to wear a helmet or whatever. But for the most part, your local field, especially indoor, CQB will have required a full face protection. You just can't get around that. More and more fields are now required to do this because it's such close quarters. There's the SpeedSoft and the paintball world where you get up close and personal, you can't have gaps somewhere and someone can lose an eye. You got to be very careful with that, and the insurance looks at that, because when it comes to CQB, things get really fast and you don't know where the bees are flying. You can hit you anywhere.
And that's the other thing too, is, because insurance does watch the market, but more than that, they watch their payouts.
Yeah.
And if an insurance company is having to pay out for people having their teeth damaged, they're going to respond to that. Mm-hmm. And they're not going to respond by removing requirements.
No, they're going to add them, if anything else.
Because insurance companies, the way they work is they want to make as much money from people paying in as possible while paying out as little as possible.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, regulating like a sports field, which is what they consider, airsoft fields, they're going to require what they consider to be the proper protective equipment to take every reasonable precaution to prevent injury. And to them, that's wearing a paintball mask. They don't understand, oh, well, people don't want to wear, lower face protection. They're like, oh, yeah, because then whose fault is it when they get their tooth shot out? It should be their fault, but we might end up having to pay out because they might sue or whatever. So we're just going to have people require this.
Yeah. And it's super expensive, especially on the field side. If an injury does happen, they have to go through a whole legal process. You have to go with, the whole company, or not the whole company. A couple people have to go from there. The people who were there with the incidents, and, your field could shut down because of this, because you weren't following the proper rules.
Yep. And that's actually another thing to mention is not only the rules of the field, the layout of the field and the type of field you're running can be affected by your insurance. Because I know personally of a couple of fields that had to actually alter their layout or severely clean out their field area in order to get insured. Because there's some fields where, hey, this is actually a hazardous high-risk area. There's ravines, or there's a junkyard, or there's a bunch of scrap, and you need to make sure that your insurance company isn't going to say you shouldn't be playing here, therefore we won't insure you. Because if you're not insured, you can't run a solid business.
No, every airsoft field should have insurance. That is a requirement that you should have. There are tons of fields that we know of that aren't insured. They say they are, but they're really not, because you can always look into that, and you can find out whether a field is insured or not. It's super easy. And if you're going to go to play at a field that doesn't actually have insurance, you're at a higher risk than you would at a legit field with insurance. Because again, if you get hurt, the person running the field is now going to have to pay versus the insurance pays. And that your field will shut down because of that.
And not to mention, the person running a field that is, at your own risk doesn't have to follow a lot of the rules that someone with an insured field does. You'll see a lot of times, I hear people say, I play in a field with no velocity limit. And I'm like, that's a ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
Either someone's going to ruin that for everybody, or someone's going to get really, really hurt.
Yeah. I mean, you can't, when it's a no velocity field, you don't know what they're bringing. They could bring glass BBs. They could bring metal BBs, aluminum metal BBs. You don't know what they're bringing because they don't care.
Yeah, they don't chrono. They don't check anybody. It's like...
You be very careful on what fields you're attending.
Yeah.
Make sure you legally look at what you're signing if they do have some sort of paper trail, and read through what it says, because most of the time the legit places actually have a lot of contingency that when you sign it you can read through it. That's why when you at a legit field, you either do it on a tablet or a piece of paper or whatever, read through this. It's very important that you do read through it and understand what you're signing. And 9 times out of 10, when you're going to unlegit fields, and most people don't read those things, and then when you get hurt, it's really sketchy.
Yeah, so definitely make sure that you're playing at insured fields. And also, if you are running a field, make sure you're following the rules that your insurance puts in place. Because if you don't follow those rules to the letter, then say someone gets hurt. Might not be your fault, might be their fault, might be something stupid they did. But if you were not following the rules that your insurance laid out, then technically you weren't running your field properly.
Yep.
And if they want to sue you, then your insurance is going to say, well, you're SOL. And then that can also be ammunition for the person suing you to say, hey, they weren't following the rules of their insurance.
Exactly.
So just all this is stuff to keep in mind when you're trying to either pick a field to play at, when you're thinking about why your field has certain rules, or if you're running a field.
Yeah. And it's always my favorite when people come out to me like, I'm going to start my own field. Good luck.
Yeah, have fun.
Have fun. It is not the easiest thing in the world. I personally, especially here in our airsoft community, it was a pain in the ass for me personally to do it. It took us 4 years to even get it approved to even do this. Legally, that is. I mean, you have to jump through hoops to even get this working. And when you are going to a legit field, just abide by the rules. Because they work so hard to even get this open for you.
Yeah, play by the rules and just don't be a dick, because think of all the, as Amy said, think of all the work that went into making this game happen.
Yeah.
So that's about our thoughts on the subject. Hopefully you found this educational, informative, and maybe a little entertaining. But this has been another episode of SpeedSim. I'm E-House.
I'm Amy.
And we will see you in the next one.
See ya.
Peace. Thank you for watching this video from Gun Gamers. We hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed making it. If you want to see more content from us, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to help support the channel, be sure to click the link below to buy a patch. Praise Judy.